Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Victoria Dowling, and we have with us Kate Troyer, our favorite Feng Shui stylist. If you've joined us before, welcome back. If it's your first time joining us, welcome. Every month, we take a moment to sit back and talk about all things renovation and design. In the past, we've gone over topics like how to get the most bang for your buck on your renovation project. We've talked about investment rehabs, outdoor renovations, Feng Shui for your home office. We've got a ton of topics we've covered. If you'd like to binge our webinars, we'll have a link below where you can access all of them. We'd love for you to watch them and to hear from you guys if there are any topics you'd love us to cover. I head up the renovation sales team here at Cross Country Mortgage. If you've never heard of renovation financing before, renovation financing gives you the opportunity to either purchase and renovate a property or refinance and renovate a property. It's fantastic for purchase, especially in this current market. Maybe with interest rates rising, your budget's been reduced a little bit, so that move-in ready home isn't quite attainable anymore. Or maybe you just want more options. You know, if you found that move-in ready home that looks perfect, so did 20 other people, and they're all putting in offers. You're going to end up paying top dollar for someone else's idea of a renovation. With a renovation loan, instead of having to hunt out that perfect house that's already done, that's still just maybe not exactly what you would have done. Now you can use that renovation loan to purchase a property and truly customize it to what you and your family want, and at the same time adding equity and value to that property. So it's a win-win. And the down payments are still super low. They start as low as 0% for USDA or VA renovation, 3.5% for FHA 203K, and in some cases as low as 3% for our conventional renovation loans. So lots of options there to help you find the right house and make it the home you want it to be. We also have this product for refinance, and it's a great option for refinance too. Maybe in the past you've been told you don't have enough equity to borrow for the renovations you're looking to do, but with a renovation loan, we're going to lend against the future value of your property. And we lend to a much higher loan to value than a cash out loan would. So there's a lot more flexibility for us to be able to help you get what you need out of your current house. We're seeing lots of folks come to us right now for additions because they either can't find the house that's the right size in the neighborhood they want to be in, or can't afford it with where the market's gone. So it's a great option to build an addition, renovate a kitchen, a bathroom, or take care of things you have to, like new siding, a roof, a heating system, a septic system. So renovation financing is a great solution to be able to borrow from the future equity of your home today to get done either what you need to or what you want to do. All 30-year fixed, super safe mortgages. So that being said, today we are going to talk about basements. If you've listened to the last 3 webinars we did, you know that we're talking about transitions. So whether it's transitioning space in your home, like your kids have moved out and now you've got this room that you don't quite know what to do with anymore, or whatever, you have a home office that you don't need anymore, whatever the case might be, it's about examining the spaces in your home and really thinking about how can this space be used today to serve myself and my family. And so today we're going to talk about basements. Basements are a fantastic option to add square footage, usable square footage to your house. There's just a few other things you're going to have to consider when you're thinking about this renovation. You know, the nice thing about a basement renovation is that you are adding usable square footage, and it's going to give you about a 70% return on investment. So it's not going to give you the same return that an above ground addition would, like an addition building out or building up on your house. But at the same time, it's going to cost a fraction of the price. You know, adding that external square footage above ground is going to add cost around $50,000 to $80,000. Whereas when you're remodeling a basement, on average, the cost nationally is between $10,000 and $20,000. So it's much cheaper. It's much faster because you're not having to build that space outside. And that space is already there in your house. So you're really just able to claim this space now for how
Mhm.
you and your family would like to live. So, one of the things before I jump into talking about the foundation and the things I want to consider there, one of the things I want you guys to think about is that this is the foundation of your house. And so, the renovations that you're going to be doing to prep this space are not just to prep for your finished basement, it's also protecting the longevity of your home and the structure of your home. So, while you're looking at this space, you want to consider a couple of things. And I love this picture we have here with the brick walls and the brick floor. It reminds me so much of the basements in New England that we have.
Mhm.
And that's one of the first things you want to think about, right? Think about the walls and the floor. We're about to cover these sites. So, does it need parging? Does it need pointing? These aren't super expensive things to do, but if you're about to put up insulation and drywall, it's definitely something you want to address now, today. Um, Also, are you going to have to upgrade electrical or heating to add it to this space? And I know Kate's going to talk a little bit more about that when we get into the feng shui of the space. But now is a great time to start thinking about that because, you know, maybe you need to upgrade the heating system so you can add an extra zone for the basement. Maybe you want to upgrade it for the upstairs too. Or you want to start thinking about how am I going to use the space? Where am I going to need electrical outlets? How am I going to handle the lighting? Think about what is the ceiling height? Do we need to dig down the floor a little bit deeper so that we have a usable ceiling height? Are we going to need to do a drop ceiling to hide some of the mechanicals? And lighting, you're going to want to keep flush with the ceiling as much as possible. So, are we going to be looking at pot lights and things like that? Um, you also want to think about radon. So, radon in the basement is always a concern. Definitely test for radon. You can buy your own at-home radon tester now off of Amazon, or you can hire somebody to come in and do a radon test. But if you have to install a mitigation system, also not super expensive, but you just want to make sure again that if you're going to finish the space and start using it, that you're making it usable as much as you can. And so the other thing you want to think about when you're starting to plan this out are the finishes. We just talked about the return on investment. It's only around 70% for the basement. And so you don't want to put high end finishes down here. It's also a space that might have a little more moisture and have a little more heavy foot traffic if you're going to use it for kids or storage or things like that. So, Kate, I would love to get your opinion on what kinds of materials people should be thinking about for their basement reno, paint colors, things like that.
So before I answer that, I just want to say something you mentioned about, this instead of building a separate area, right? We're extending our existing space. And I thought, oh, I really love the idea of that. We're kind of expanding the energy of our home, right? We're creating more usable space, more space that is serving us. And I just thought, oh, I like kind of that little thought about how we're expanding the energy, which is most likely maybe happening in our life because we're also doing it in our home.
Love
As
that.
far as materials, I think it really is important, that you mentioned this is typically an area that's getting more moisture, right? So, in my opinion, while carpet is usually the least expensive and the easiest thing to install in the basement, if you can, even if you have to go maybe a little bit with a more inexpensive, but an LVP, I think for a basement is so nice. Because then if anything does happen, if you have any kind of damage or if you do kind of have that moisture, it's not trapped underneath the carpet, right? Which can kind of breed all kinds of yucky stuff. I would probably say I'd go more LVP and grab some rugs
Hmm.
from certain places or something like that, because those are things that can kind of be transitioned much easier and much less expensive. Um, as far as paint colors, I think it depends a little bit on what you're doing with the space, right? If this is going to be like a movie like area, or maybe like more of like a retreat as far as like maybe like more of a bar or something, you might want more darker, richer colors to kind of create more of that cozy, enveloped kind of vibe. However, if this is going to be more of an area for play and for kind of a lot of activity, I would say probably lighter, brighter colors because they're going to expand that, more energy rather than make it feel cozy, right? Um, so yeah, that's where I think, I mean, I feel like those are the two biggest materials you're usually putting into your basement, right? There's not much to go on and on about. Your
Yeah,
lighting
I
is
love,
kind of, you're doing recessed lights basically, no matter
yeah.
what kind of the deal is. So they're low profile and that's about it.
I love the suggestion of the rugs though too, because I do feel like people think either wall to wall or
Yeah.
it's going to be a hard surface, and that not only will help with any sound echoing. Those basement ceilings are usually lower, but also
Mhm.
I've noticed that the indoor outdoor rugs have gotten there's so much more variety of those now. So like if you do need
Mhm.
something that is more low moisture, that could be a good option too. I hadn't even thought of that before. But now I'm like, where can I put more rugs?
I put rugs everywhere whenever I need, like, I don't know, I'm just like, put a rug down. It fixes everything.
I love it. I love it. And so now you're thinking about how you're going to finish that space, but there is one other thing that I want you guys to think about before we get into that piece of it. So let's talk about the next slide, which is all about the exterior. We just mentioned that there might be more moisture in the basement. And so you want to take stock of that before you refinish this beautiful space that you're going to use for your family in any number of different ways. You want to think a little bit about the exterior. And again, this is an investment in your home structure and the longevity of your property, for yourself, for your family. And so think about things like, do we need to do waterproofing around the foundation? Do we need to do a French drain system? I love this picture because window wells are such a great way for you to be able to get more light into a basement space. So we talked a little bit about how the appraiser isn't going to give you as much value for the space because it's below ground. And part of that is about the window height. You might also need larger windows if you're going to be putting in a bedroom down there, which you've got to have a point of exit, a way for somebody to get out of the property. And it is just going to add more light to the situation. So we're in a basement. Any opportunity we have to add more light, the better. Another inexpensive one to think about are gutters. I feel like we talk about gutters every single week, but it's so true. You've got to have those gutters in place. They've got to be cleaned and maintained. They're going to keep the water away from your foundation. They're going to help protect whatever investment you're about to put into your basement. Um, and another great place to add light is the door. And so in the previous picture, we're looking at that basement with the brick wall and a big metal door. And that's what most people have in their basement. It's there for security more than anything else. But if you're going to start using this space for something else, you want to think about what the entrance is from the exterior. And that's another opportunity to add more light. So maybe you're adding a door that has a window on the top, or something that looks a little bit more inviting than a giant metal door. So you really do want to think about the exterior piece of it and think about the light coming in, thinking about how you're going to use the space. Maybe you need to add a window somewhere there wasn't a window before. And so as you're starting to think about how you're going to use the space, you want to start to think about these other kind of infrastructure items as well to help protect your investment. I think the last topic we have in the beginning to talk about is layouts. And so I think also when people see a space, this is true of the upstairs and the second floor, you see the walls where they are and you kind of just think, this is what I have to deal with. The basement is an awesome opportunity where you've got this usually giant open space that you can decide how you're going to break it up. For return on investment, if you can add a bedroom and a bathroom in the space, that's ideal. That's going to help you get the most return on your investment. That could bump you from a 70% ROI to like more like a 78. And it's going to make that space more usable, because whatever you're using the space for, maybe it's a playroom or a home office. It's nice to have a bathroom down there, and adding a bathroom, while it's not above ground, it's still going to add value to your property. So this is also an opportunity where you can really think about where you want those walls to be. Now, the basement is a little bit of a unique situation because it is usually a giant open canvas where maybe you have a few structural support beams and you know where those are and where they've got to stay. But think about this too in the above ground space. You know, you can always move walls. I feel like we talked about that a lot in the last segment where we're talking about reclaiming space. And if there are walls in your basement, they don't all necessarily have to stay where they are. You can move some things around, restructure so that the flow makes sense for how you want to use the space. And renovation loans are great for that, great for being able to help make the space either more open or to close off areas that you need to, or maybe you had one giant bedroom that you need to make a bedroom and a bathroom, or a bedroom and a laundry room. So while you're planning this out, don't feel like you have to live with where the walls are now or how the space is laid out today. You can add windows, you can move walls, you can move utilities. Things can be shifted around to help make that layout what you want it to be. And so everything that we're talking about today obviously can be done in a renovation loan, whether it's a purchase or a refinance. These are all things you can wrap in to help make the home more usable and functional for you and your family. So I would love to talk more to you, Kate, about some of the things that folks need to think about from maybe more of a design or a Feng Shui perspective as they're getting ready for this renovation.
Yeah, so I feel like when we have a basement, it's typically the area where everything, it's either there or the garage, or maybe both the spaces that everything goes that we're not sure what we want to do with. Or we're having a hard time of letting go of, which of course is somewhat symbolic of the basement. It's this, deeper part of your home. And a lot of times we end up storing things in our basements that are related to, our past selves, or things that have happened, or family heirlooms, or things people give us that we feel bad getting rid of. It's like we hang on to stuff that we really have no attachment to, or maybe we do have an attachment to it, but a lot of times when there's an abundance of stuff, sometimes it's maybe not the best attachment, right? So I think that's something, to also think about. And I know we talked about on our call the fact that as part of your renovation loan, like, let's say you just have a whole bunch of stuff down there that you're like, you know what? I'm over having this stuff. I don't want it anymore. I just want it gone. Like, if someone could just come in and take it out for me, I would be so happy. Well, guess what? You can do that with your renovation loan, right? You can hire someone, a junk hauler or remover, to come in and just clean all of that stuff out, right? So I think that's something that I thought was just, a nice extension of a renovation loan, because a lot of times people have a hard time with that. Well, I'd love to redo the space, but there's all this stuff down here, and someone else is coming in to do the work for the new stuff, but I have to clear all this. And you know what? That just seems like too much. And so if you can, I guess, at least detach enough to let someone else just come and take it away for you, or go through what you want and then just save the rest and not have to, deal with all of that. I think that's a way to just kind of attack that issue and get it taken care of. And a really important part, of creating that space for the new space, right? And that's why if you do have a basement like that and you've been saying for years, I'd love to redo the basement, but all this stuff is down there, which I can't tell you how many times I have heard. Maybe you just want to allow someone else to come and take that off your hands. So I think that's something that is worth being said, because a lot of people experience the inability to move forward with something because there's something like that standing in their way.
Yeah, we have, you just described my basement. We couldn't even let go of what the sellers had down there before we left. We were like, what if there's something good down there? Don't throw it out yet. So
Hmm.
yeah, we have to go through there. It's so true though. And you always talk about like making space for the new things that we want in our lives. But I think you're right. The basement is one of those spaces that while it's like a gold mine of square footage just waiting there, it does have this kind of overwhelming amount of stuff that we've all kind of tucked down there and maybe don't even
Oh,
realize it's
yes.
down there anymore.
Yep. I just
And
started going through mine again, and I'm just like, oh, wow, look at all this stuff. And there's some things that I've like just left in the middle of the basement. And I'm like, I don't even want this. Why is it here?
yeah,
So
yep. And with the layout that we just talked about too, maybe the whole space isn't going to be living space for you guys. There are obviously some functional things in the basement that we need space for. So maybe part of the space that you cut aside is for storage. And that space doesn't have to be completely finished. It's, certainly nice if it's waterproofed, but you can save a little money by having a kind of an unfinished storage space down there too. And I know we all keep a lot of stuff down there from, like you said, Kate, our past lives or holidays or different
yep.
things that we've designated to the basement. All right, what do we have up next? Let's see. This is great. And you were talking about this on our call, and I was like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense.
Yeah, so this was kind of fun to do. So we talked about in an ideal situation. I don't know if for those of you that have been on our call before, where we've kind of talked about your home energy map, right? And how you lay that on your space and all of that fun stuff. Um, if you have no idea what this is and you want to know more, you can go to my website or just look it up online, Bagua map, a home energy map, and you'll find it. But we're going to pretend that we're dealing with a perfectly rectangular shaped home, upstairs and in the basement. It's the same. It's exactly the same floor plan as upstairs. So it's going to carry down to your basement. And we started talking about, oh, I wonder where the best place is for certain things that live in our basement. Where are those things? So I did a little thinking on this. And because during your renovation process, you may be able to move certain things, or you may even want to move certain things, so that you have a better flow for your floor plan in the basement. So let's talk about the most ideal spaces for those. So your HVAC system is going to be best back here in the back middle of your basement somewhere. And the reason, that's the fame and reputation area of your home. And so it is ruled by the fire element. And so having that HVAC system there is like amazing, right? It's kind of like keeping that burning. It could also be great, I think, too, in your love and relationships, especially if you want fiery, more passionate kind of relationships. It's kind of like keeping that fire going. Your Wi-Fi, this was one that I was like, ooh, we should talk about the Wi-Fi, right? Or like where that lives. Because ideally, if you can have it in your basement, I think is kind of the best, because it kind of keeps that energy grounded. And it's also like not right by you, right? Maybe you have extenders and stuff, but that main entrance point isn't like in your daily living area. And so I had to think about this a little bit. And I thought, well, what are we typically using our internet for? And it's connection, right? It's connection to resources, it's connection to other people, it's connection for maybe our business, to our family, to all of these different things in our lives. It's really what we use for connection nowadays. It all streams from that point. And to me, connection is all about the love and relationships in your life. So that back right, I think, would be a great place for your router, where your internet's coming in, all of that great stuff. And then any type of water system, if you are able to dictate where that's going, or maybe you're going to put a bathroom right down in your space. In that front middle here in your life path area, again, related to the water element, really great place for that to come in as it represents the opportunities and resources that you allow to flow in and out of your life. And then last but not least, I wanted to mention the center. And if at all possible, having this as an area that, is kind of clear of stuff. A lot of times you're going to have these systems in the center of your home. And that's something to think about. It's not necessarily a bad thing, it's just maybe a challenge. And you just kind of want to calm that, whatever the energy of that is, because this should be a very grounded, safe kind of feeling area, or stable feeling area would be a good way to put it.
I love that. And you actually mentioned something amazing the other day on the call too that I hadn't thought of. But if you're moving these systems, right? Because we talked about, don't be afraid to move the layout. This is the basement. Everything's open. If you're going to move stuff anywhere, this is the least expensive place to move it. But also if you're upgrading to a more current system, they tend to be more space saving too. So I know when we went in our multifamily and we changed the heating system, it went from being this giant megalith that took over a huge, maybe like 5x6 area of the floor to this nice, neat little system up on the wall, tucked away, out of the way. And so, that's something else too, where if you guys are redoing the basement, think about what system you have down there. How much space is it taking up? Does it make sense now that you're redoing the space to have someone in there and move it and upgrade it at the same time? Again, investment in your house. It's going to lower your utility bills. And now it's going to give you more square footage back in your basement. But I think this is so interesting about the kind of like where to put things. It makes so much sense when you say it like that. All right, I think we have one category left. Oh, so now that we've refinished this space, Kate, we'd love to talk to you guys, to you about what could the space be used for? How should we decorate it? Or what do we do with it now?
Yeah, so I think that obviously you can we've talked about adding a bedroom, we've talked about adding a bathroom, you could do a kitchenette, you could do a full-on kitchen, everything, game room. I don't know how, depending on how large your basement is, right? But because we're getting into the holiday season, I think, kind of focusing on what can we use that space for in this very, current season of our lives. And so if you have a big family, or if you have lots of kids in your family, we know this is a wonderful space to utilize for the kids, right? And maybe you don't have furniture or everything like that down there yet, but you can still totally create an awesome kid space down here, right? You can do some cool lounge spaces, set up a TV, or even like the projector or something like that, and give them some fun stuff to do. If your, dining space isn't big enough to accommodate everybody, set up a couple big long folding tables and have this awesome big family style, dinner down there. You can always throw tablecloths over tables like that and still dress it up and make it look really cute. And you can, I think, just thinking about how can I utilize this space, especially if you're having people over around the holidays, right? Maybe it's a space for the guys to watch football, if that's what kind of goes on in your family. Maybe it's a space to play games, maybe it's a space for the kids, maybe it's giving you more room to eat. But I think this is just a time even more so that we can ask ourselves, how can I set up my home and my space to serve my needs? And, that I think that the needs are always different around the holidays. And then we always get that period of reset in January, I think too, because of that, because we're like, oh, you know, we don't need to accommodate as many guests and holidays and just all these things going on. Now we can get back to how the space serves us. So I think it changes a lot during this
Mhm.
time of year. So just being mindful of that and, you know, thinking how you can do more of that in your space would be really great right now.
I love it. And I feel like we always talk about guest rooms too, but it's so true that like in the last couple of years, everyone's been staying home and now we're finally getting back out there.
Mhm.
So if you do put a bedroom in your basement, maybe this is a good opportunity to transition a space that is above ground to something that you might use more every day and have the
Yeah.
guest space in the basement, right? Um,
Yeah.
and in the long term too, if you did put a little kitchenette down there, not only would that be great for the holidays because now you've got like an extra kitchen space, but also maybe you want to rent the space down the line, or maybe when your kids are a little older, they want to have more private space to themselves, and this can kind of become their space. So I think the basement is just such a great opportunity to really get square footage for a low cost and be able to kind of maximize how you use your space for your family. So
I
great
agree.
ideas.
Yeah.
So, thank you guys for joining us today to talk all about basements and finishing that space and how we can use and utilize that space. I'm again Victoria Dowling, the renovation sales manager here at Cross Country. And of course, we have Kate Troyer with us, home wellness expert and Feng Shui stylist. We'd love to hear questions from you guys if you have any questions today. But of course, you can always reach out to us directly as well. Our contact info is right here on the screen.
All right, thank you so much, ladies. Yes, so it looks like right now we have about 2 questions. Excuse me. So the first, my question is about the furnace. I don't have a basement, just a crawl space, and my furnace is in the crawl, and I'm older, so I can't access it well. Would a renovation loan cover the cost of it moving it into my house?
Definitely. Yep. You could absolutely use a renovation loan to move utilities, to upgrade utilities. And that goes for the heating system, but it goes really for any system that you need to either upgrade or move. So that's something that could definitely be incorporated.
All right, awesome, thank you. And looks like our last question at the moment. My house is 113 years old. Oh my gosh. Are there any special precautions I should take into consideration before I renovate it into a finished basement?
Yeah, that's a great question. My house is about 160 years old, so I feel your pain. I would say that you definitely want to take a little bit of extra care and look at your foundation. Typically, homes of that age are going to have some kind of stone or masonry foundation and a dirt floor. And so you really want to have a contractor come in who is used to working on older homes. You're going to want to have a mason come in and see if there is something that needs to be done to the walls, like pointing, repointing, if it's brick or parging in some cases. And you're going to, so I know a lot of the time that homes of this age also are meant to weep or to have some moisture come in. So you're just going to have to make sure that whatever you do for the flooring is a little more flexible and that you, again, that you're working with a contractor who's used to the age of the home that you have.
All right, wonderful. Well, thank you so much, ladies. That looks like that's the last of our questions today. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. We'll see you guys next
Thanks,
time.
guys.